committee,
committee,
committee, committee, committee.
committee, committee, committee.
A committee is a group of people who individually can do nothing, but who, as a group, can meet and decide that nothing can be done.
A committee is a group of the people who individually can do nothing, but who, as a group, can meet and decide that nothing can be done.
The school committee decided to give the boy a second chance.
The school committee decided to give the boy a second chance.
A committee of 12 members was chosen to examine the proofs brought forward by Morcerf.
The committee of the 12 members was chosen to examine the proof forwarded by Morcerf.
Lion,
Lion,
lion, lion, lion.
lion, lion, lion.
It's better to be a lion for a day than a sheep all your life.
It's better to be a lion for a day than a sheep all your life.
The lion paced back and forth in its cage at the zoo.
The lion paced back and forth in its cage at the zoo.
The first lion thinks the last a boar.
The first lion thinks the last born.
Reaction,
Reaction,
reaction, reaction, reaction.
reaction, reaction, reaction.
It's not stress that kills us, it is our reaction to it.
It's not stress that kills us, it is our reaction to it.
His reaction was not as funny as I had hoped.
His reaction was not as funny as I had hoped.
It is melancholy outside and in. The baronet is in a black reaction after the excitements of the night.
It is melancholy outside and in baronet is in the black reaction after excitement of light.
Armpit,
Armpit,
armpit, armpit, armpit.
armpit, armpit, armpit.
Call me old-fashioned, but armpit hair is not high up there on my wish list of things to have.
Call me old-fashioned, but armpit hair is not high up there on my wish list of the things to have.
I made an appointment with a doctor after finding a lump in my armpit.
I made an appointment with the doctor after finding a lump in my armpit.
The foreman turned round to hear patiently and, lifting an elbow, began to scratch slowly in the armpit of his alpaca jacket.
The poor man turned around to hear patiently and, lifting an elbow, began to scratch slowly in the armpit of his alpaca jacket.
Account,
Account,
account, account, account.
account, account, account.
No man can add $1 to his bank account by worrying.
No man can add it and $1 to his bank account by worrying.
She went to the bank to withdraw money from her account.
He went to the bank to withdraw money from the account.
And further, who conceiveth the full depth of the modesty of the vain man? I am favorable to him, and sympathetic on account of his modesty.
And further, who conceivability and the full depth of the modesty of the vain man, I am favorable to him and sympathize on account of his modesty.
Idiot,
Idiot,
idiot, idiot, idiot.
idiot, idiot, idiot.
Have you ever noticed that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anyone going faster than you is a maniac?
Have you ever noticed that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anyone going faster than you is a maniac?
Have you ever noticed that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anyone going faster than you is a maniac? I felt like an idiot after I realized my mistake.
I felt like an idiot after I realized my mistake.
The expression in the glance of that child of 8 years was habitually so gloomy, and at times so tragic, that it seemed at certain moments as though she were on the verge of becoming an idiot or a demon.
The expression in the glance of the child of the 8 years was habitually so gloomy, and at times so tragic, that it seemed that at certain moment I thought she was on the verge of being an idiot or a demon.
Fiction.
Fiction.
Fiction. Fiction. Fiction.
Fiction. Fiction. Fiction.
I don't generally read a lot of fiction.
I don't generally read a lot of fiction. I don't generally read a lot of fiction.
This novel is fiction, so none of the characters are real.
The novel is fiction, so none of the characters are real.
I had also with me a somewhat old, but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours.
I had also with me a somehow old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of the work of the fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours.
Nearby.
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 Nearby. Nearby. Nearby.
Nearby. Nearby. Nearby.
The planets and moons of our solar system are blatantly visible because they reflect sunlight. Without the nearby sun, these planets would be cryptic and dark on the sky.
The planet and moon of our solar system are brilliantly visible because they reflect sunlight. Without the nearby sun, these planets would be crystal and dark on the sky.
On my lunch break, I usually go to a nearby coffee shop.
On my lunch break, I usually go to a nearby coffee shop.
There were several roads nearby, but it did not take her long to find the one paved with yellow bricks.
There were several roads nearby, but it did not take her long to find the one paved with yellow brick.
Buzz.
Buzz.
Buzz. Buzz. Buzz.
Buzz. Buzz. Buzz.
Publishers like a good buzz, and negative responses sell books just as well as positive ones.
Publishers like a good buzz, but negative response sell books just as well as a positive one.
I could hear the buzz of electricity after we plugged the TV in.
I could hear the buzz of the electricity after we plugged the TV in.
At the same moment the stage buzzed with a new sound and, amid a crowd of men in evening dress, all talking and gesticulating together.
At the same moment the stage buzzed with a new sound and, amid a crowd of the men in evening dress, all talking and gesticulating together.
Tile.
Tire.
Tile.
Tire.
Tile. Tile. Tile.
Tire. Tire. Tire.
Everyone in my family has some kind of artistic tendency. My great-grandmother was a jewelry designer, and her daughter was a ceramic tile muralist.
Everyone in my family had some kind of the artistic tendency. My great-grandmother was a jewelry designer, and her daughter was a ceramic tile muralist.
I used a broom to sweep the dirt off the tile.
I used a broom to sweep the dirt of the tire.
A piece of tile whizzed by his head and smashed among the crockery on the kitchen table.
The piece of the tile went by his head and smashed among the crockery on the kitchen table.
Grunt.
Grunt.
Grunt. Grunt. Grunt.
Grunt. Grunt. Grunt.
In video games and animation, you find that the toughest things to make different are the things that aren't words, grunts, groans, gasps.
In video game and animation, you can find that characteristics to make a difference are the things that aren't words, grunt, groans, grasps.
Although he didn't say it, I took his grunt as a yes.
Although he didn't say it, it took his grunt as a yes.
Marilla emitted a sound between a sniff and a grunt.
Marilla emitted a sound between sniff and grunt.
Thump.
Thump.
Thump. Thump. Thump.
Thump. Thump. Thump.
I grew up shopping from farm stands. Dad taught me how to smell a good cantaloupe and thump a watermelon for ripeness.
I grew up shopping from stand. Dad taught me how to smell a good cantaloupe and thump a watermelon for ripeness.
The thump of footsteps on the stairs interrupted my train of thought.
The thump of footsteps on the stair interrupted my train of the thought. Thump.
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 Thump. Thump. Thump.
Thump. Thump. Thump.
Activity.
Activity.
Focus on the journey, not the destination. Joy is found not in finishing an activity but in doing it.
Focus on the journey, not the destination. Joy is found not in finishing an activity but in doing it.
Camping is my favorite summer activity.
Camping is my favorite summer activity.
He is now 16 and full of activity and spirit.
He is now 16 and full of the activity and spirit.
Dining.
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 Dining should be a delightful and a beautiful experience.
Dining should be delightful and a beautiful experience.
The dining room quickly filled with guests ready to eat.
The dining room quickly filled with guests ready to eat.
Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me. 8 bottles of champagne are entered as having been consumed.
Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me. 8 bottles of the champagne are entered as having been consumed.
Scrap.
Scrap.
Scrap. Scrap. Scrap.
Scrap. Scrap. Scrap.
A lot of times, I write and have to scrap it. You don't know what I'm talking about because the words are too much, and it's overwhelming.
A lot of time I write and have to scrap it. You don't know what I'm talking about because the words are too much, and it's overwhelming.
The dog sat under the table begging for a scrap of food.
The dog sat under the table beginning for the scrap of the food.
Gavroche, habituated to facing the unexpected in all quarters, had everything about him. He fumbled in one of his pockets, and pulled from it a scrap of paper and a bit of red pencil filched from some carpenter. Gavroche, habituated to facing the unexpected in all quarters, had everything about him. He fumbled in one of his pockets, and pulled from it a scrap of paper and a bit of red pencil filched from some carpenter. Magistrate.
Magistrate.
Magistrate. Magistrate. Magistrate.
Magistrate. Magistrate. Magistrate.
Obscenity is whatever happens to shock some elderly and ignorant magistrate.
Obscenity is whatever happens to shock some elderly and ignorant magistrate.
The man retired after serving as a magistrate.
The man retired after serving as a magistrate.
I was soon introduced into the presence of the magistrate, an old benevolent man with calm and mild manners.
I was soon introduced into the presence of the majesty, an old beyond man with a calm and mild manner.
flutter,
flutter,
flutter, flutter, flutter.
flutter, flutter, flutter.
Trying to fly, the baby bird began to flutter its wings.
Trying to fly, the baby bird began to flutter its wing.
Torch,
Torch,
torch, torch, torch.
torch, torch, torch.
Scientists have become the bearers of the torch of discovery in our quest for knowledge.
Scientists have become a bearer of the torch of the discovery in our quest for knowledge.
He carried a torch into the dark cave.
He carried the torch into a dark cave.
At this moment the light of the torch was reflected on the wall.
At this moment, the light of the torch was reflected on the wall.
Audience,
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 audience, audience, audience.
audience, audience, audience.
A good teacher, like a good entertainer, first must hold his audience's attention, then he can teach his lesson.
A good teacher, like a good entertainer, first must hold his audience's attention, then he can teach his lesson.
Giving speeches in front of an audience makes me nervous.
Giving speech in front of an audience makes me nervous.
Frost,
Frost,
frost, frost, frost.
frost, frost, frost.
We are using the same water that the dinosaurs drank, and this same water has to make ice creams in Pasadena and the morning frost in Paris.
We are using the same water that the dinosaurs drank, and this same water had to make ice cream in Pasadena and the morning frost in Paris.
There was a bit of frost on the grass in the morning.
There was a bit of the frost on the grass in the morning.
Dentist,
Dentist,
dentist, dentist, dentist.
dentist, dentist, dentist.
I wanted to be a dentist when I was younger.
I wanted to be a dentist when I was younger.
The dentist skillfully removed the child's tooth without him crying.
The dentist skillfully removed the child's tooth without him crying.
He was a quack dentist on his rounds, who was offering to the public full sets of teeth, opiates, powders and elixirs.
He was a quack dentist on his lawn. He was offering to the public full set of teeth, opiates, powder and elixirs.
Tattoo,
Tattoo,
tattoo, tattoo, tattoo.
tattoo, tattoo, tattoo.
Anyone who's had a tattoo knows once you get your first one, as you're walking out the door, you're planning the next.
Anyone who had a tattoo knows once you get your first one, as you are walking out the door, you are planning the next.
I felt very nervous before getting my first tattoo.
I felt very nervous before getting my first tattoo.
Slope,
Slope,
slope, slope, slope.
slope, slope, slope.
Never bend the rules. You bend the rules a little bit and then it's a slippery slope.
Never bend the rule. You bend the rule a little bit and then it's a slip loop.
The professional skied down the slope flawlessly.
The professional skipped down the slope precisely.
Holy,
Holy,
holy, holy, holy.
holy, holy, holy.
Faith in a holy cause is to a considerable extent a substitute for lost faith in ourselves.
Faith in the holy code is to considerable extent of substitute for lost faith in ourselves.
The priest sprinkled holy water on us as we prayed.
The priest sprinkled holy water on us as we prayed.
You have once in your life passed a holy church in Cape Town, where you doubtless overheard a holy parson addressing his hearers as his beloved fellow creatures.
You have once your life past the holy church in Cape Town, where you doubtless overheard a holy person addressing his heart and his beloved fellow senator.
Useful.
Useful.
Useful. Useful. Useful.
Useful. Useful. Useful.
Have nothing in your house that you do not know to be useful, or believe to be beautiful.
Have nothing in your house that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful.
Knowing a second language is very useful when traveling.
Knowing a second language is very useful when traveling.
As I believe that our domestic animals were originally chosen by uncivilized man because they were useful and bred readily under confinement.
As I believe that our domestic animals were originally chosen by uncivilized man because they were useful and bred readily under confinement.
Closely.
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 Physical comforts cannot subdue mental suffering, and if we look closely, we can see that those who have many possessions are not necessarily happy.
Physical comfort cannot subdue mental suffering, and if we look closely, we can see that those who have the many personally are not necessarily happy.
I used a telescope to look more closely at the stars.
I used a telescope to look more closely at the stars.
I am following you closely.
I'm following you closely.
Caveman.
Caveman.
Caveman. Caveman. Caveman.
Caveman. Caveman. Caveman.
He looked like a caveman with his long, thick beard.
He looked like a caveman with his long, thin beard.
He looked like a caveman with his long, thick beard.
He looked like a caveman with his long, thin beard.
Howl.
Howl.
Howl. Howl. Howl.
Howl. Howl. Howl.
Generally speaking, a howling wilderness does not howl, it is the imagination of the traveler that does the howling.
Generally speaking, a howling wilderness does not howl. It is the imagination of the traveler that does the howling.
The wolves howl in the moonlight.
The wolf howl in moonlight.
The wolves howl in the moonlight.
The wolf howl in moonlight.
Ledge.
Ledge.
Ledge. Ledge. Ledge.
Ledge. Ledge. Ledge.
I'm fine with being beat up and pushed around, but I'm really scared of heights and scared of ledges.
I'm fine with being beat up and pushed around, and I'm really scared of height and scared of the ledge.
My heart began to beat faster as I got closer to the ledge of the rock.
My heart began to beat fast as I get close to the ledge of the rock.
The first thing they saw, on entering the box, was a box of English sweets on a little shelf of the ledge.
The first thing they saw on entering the box was a box of the English sweets on the little shelf on the ledge.
Stomp.
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 Life is anything that dies when you stomp on it.
Life is anything that dies when you stomp on it.
Stomp the snow off your boots before coming in.
Stop the snow off your boot before coming in.